I am so happy that Chris Wigent has taken time for us today. He is the executive director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. Chris, thank you very much for taking time for the show today.
Absolutely, Dave. It's great to be here, and it's very interesting to hear the outreach that you in Oakland County and the suburban area. It's very nice.
Well, we're having a good time with it. And, speaking of education, the 3FM radio stations are all licensed to various school districts around here. So they have been put into service while the students are not in the building in other ways. So we're really glad to be able to do this. We won't be doing this forever, but during this period of time, it's been great. And that has been our pivot. Chris, I assume superintendents around the state they have their hands full, that they have to be working on a variety of pivots to deal with this whole crisis, the economic side of it and the logistics side of it. How are the superintendents holding up?
You know, I think I think we continue to be motivated and energized, but I speak for myself when I say it's been a long 3 months. I think back to March 10th, 12th, when suddenly we learned that schools were shutting down. Districts had to hurry and really plan to get their continuity of learning plan together for the rest of the year for the remote learning of students. And throughout that time, we worked on food service delivery. We worked on all kinds of things, connection for internet and devices and packets and everything else. And then, a few weeks after that, we started to hear rumblings about fiscal emergency, and we're wrapping up this quote unquote school year, and now the attention turns to next year, both from a fiscal standpoint and an operational standpoint.
Well, it's going to be a challenge. And the thing that I didn't understand at first, that I have a better understanding of now after talking to a number of experts over the past couple of weeks, is schools generally end their fiscal year right in the middle of the summer. And they start a new one typically on July 1st. So not only are schools having to figure out how to operate next year, what is clearly going to be a year where there are budget constraints because there just isn't as much money to go around. But this year that these changes come at the very end of their fiscal year, is that creating a problem because the schools have less money this year as well?
Well, absolutely. And we are really hoping that there won't be prorations this year because we have what, 15 days, maybe 14 days left in our fiscal year. And so you think about that for the state to come in and say, by the way, you've got 14 days left in your fiscal year, but we're going to cut you $700 a kid on money that you probably already spent. That is an impossible situation. And so we're hoping that there will not be cuts for the next 14 days, but we understand that then starting our next fiscal year, we've got some work to do.
Do you expect that's what is going to happen, that there won't be any additional cuts this year
Well,
in
if
this
I say
budget?
there won't, there will be. And if I say there will be, there won't. We just don't have solid information on that. It would be a guess. It wouldn't even maybe be an educated guess at this point. But I know what the hope is, and the hope is that we get through without anything in the next 14 days.
Structurally, can the state do that retroactively? Could the state come back and say, hey, look, we didn't have the money that we expected, and sometime right before July 1st say, hey, look, we are not going to deliver all the money that we expected? Or is this a proration that you mentioned? We've heard that term from a lot of other educators. Does that have to happen while the school days are actually in progress?
No, that can happen during our fiscal year. And it's happened before, not quite like this. It's happened sometimes in the middle when things start to go bad. But like everything else, this is unique. And for your listeners, a proration really is where the state comes in and takes a certain amount of money out of your budget, and you have to then fix your budget based on what money was taken out.
So I can't, I don't know what, I laugh because I don't know what else to do. But I want to ask you what advice you're giving superintendents around the state of Michigan. It can't be easy.
Again, we tell them this is our best information that we have, speaking to people in Lansing, speaking to uh, other governmental agencies. What we're suggesting is you stand by, of course, for the proration this year, but for next year, you budget up to $700 per pupil reduction in your budget. And so that would mean you'd take your current budget, subtract $700, multiply it by the number of students you're going to have, and that's the cut, and maybe the minimal cut that you're going to have to look forward to for next year. And like you said, our fiscal year ends very soon, and so we have to come out with a budget on July 1st. We have to put something together, and so that's our advice: $700 less per student. Now, there's an asterisk there. The asterisk is we are really hoping and working with labor, working with other education associations and other groups to try to come up with some help at the federal level to offset that $700 per pupil loss.
Well, and that's certainly that is the one place that I can't say it can be easily done, but it's really going to be difficult for the state of Michigan. There's only so much shifting around the state can do. The state lost all kinds of revenue this year. It's just the reality of the situation, and you can only move so many things around. There's only so much relief. Is that $700 student relief even available in the state budget if they were to cut all the other programs? Who knows?
Yeah, who does know? What I do know is that we've heard from the governor, we've heard from several representatives. They don't want to cut schools, but I think you're spot on. The math is the math. Um, they reduced the amount of money that they actually just heard the amount that was reported was even millions less than what they expected from a reduced standpoint. So we know the impact the COVID-19 had, and that was fewer people working, less revenue, and this all makes sense. And so no one's pointing fingers and saying that the state's hiding money they don't have. That's not what we're thinking this time. We know it's the reality. And so we turn to the feds. They've been able to buy out and help support the airlines and other major industries. And we think education ranks right up there as number one in the nation as far as the future goes. So we hope that they're in this investment mode. We hope that they will then take a look at their true priorities and provide investment to public education.
Is there a timetable that you would like to see the federal government act within? I mean, they because it's complications come up in Washington, things get delayed, tough to move legislation anyway in the summer at all. I mean, if this happens in September or October, is it too late?
Well, it's never too late. It will create some real issues for districts because they will base their budget on $700 less. If the money comes in a couple months later, they'll be able to reinstate some things. But yeah, trying to add teachers or trying to make some major shifts a couple months into the school year procedurally is very difficult. And who knows where we're going to be 2 months into the school year? We could have everyone home. We could have everyone at school. We could have a modified plan. This is really, really complex. Even for those of us who have been around forever, we feel like first year superintendents because we've never seen this before.
Well, I got to tell you, I
Rookies
just
are
got to,
just
I got to tell you, Chris Wigent, executive director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents. I think the greatest quote, and I use this quote almost every day, the greatest quote that I had during this whole process on the show came from a first year superintendent, Pat Watson, in Bloomfield Hills. And Pat was on talking about this. We were having a really great conversation. And he said, Dave, we can really hope that everything is going to work out this way, the other way, but hope is not a plan. And that's a really good sentence. And he's right. Hope is not a plan. We have to have a plan. And I know superintendents are working on contingencies A, B, C, and D, and we will get through this. Is there a way now? You represent all the superintendents in the state and administrators. You get them together for meetings and conferences. Are there things that schools can do together to release some of the pain and relieve some of the pain and burden, or at least share some
Yeah,
strategies
that's
during this
really
time?
a good point. As you may know, and as your listeners may know, there are intermediate school districts or RESAs or ISDs that provide services and leadership to the school districts in their county. We're really encouraging counties to take a look at having some consistent plans in place so that regardless of whether I'm in District A in this county or District B in this county, there's going to be the same kind of plans. And we still encourage, and a lot's going on, but we still encourage that consolidation of services at the county level, especially right now to try to cut costs because every dollar counts. And you're right, hope is not a plan. We have a lot of planning going on, and I would rather see plans in place, as would our parents, as would our teachers, and then adjust as necessary. So I will tell you from a statewide perspective, and you're right, plans A through D are being put into place. And from where I sit, we might have to use all.
Chris and Wigent, anything else you want to add today that you might think might be helpful to our friends and students and educators and parents?
You know, I think some empathy and some support at this time for our school districts. We're doing the best we can with what we have. Hopefully, every superintendent's communicating. It's not a perfect setup. $700 per child is going to have an impact. We'll keep the impact to children minimal, of course. But be open to change and be open to understanding what we're going through, because whatever you're going through in your personal life as a result of COVID-19 is happening at a magnified level at the school district.
Well, I can well imagine, and hopefully we've seen some action already, but hopefully corporate America, as it rebounds and gets some strength and gets back on its feet, can also get more involved in education and help out. There's a lot of other ways we can all lend a hand to education during these challenging times. So.
Well, if I could, let's take the positive spin here.
Sure.
And look at the focus this is provide on how valuable teachers are. I mean, parents are ready to send their kids to school. We've kind of reinvigorated the teaching profession because there's been a lot of positive things about that. Districts have done things with remote or virtual learning they might not have done before because of the rules and requirements. We're thinking outside of the box. And I think that, as history will show, this COVID-19 is going to produce a big change in public education in our state. And I think that's a positive. So I think moving forward, we're feeling the pain right now, but down the road, this is a great investment in our future for public education.
It is. And Chris, I always knew you were an optimist. Thank you very much for being with us. Good to chat with you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds great. Nice to see you, Dave. Good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. He is Chris Wigent, Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators, and we really appreciate him being with us today here on the MegaCast.